Today I thought I would do a video on kind of my main reason for starting YouTube and BitChute videos. This one will be for YouTube exclusively. It's going to cover something that I've already done on BitChute, but essentially one of the reasons I got into making videos and video content was because I wanted to build sort of no, that kind of seems shallow, not a fan base, but kind of build a presence on here so one day I could make an indie comic and promote it to some people who care about this stuff, because I plan on covering a lot of different content, video games, comics, give my thoughts on them, give reviews. Anyway, and the main reason I started doing all this is because there are two YouTubers I watch called That Umbrella Guy and Raging Golden Eagle. Both are actually working on indie comics right now, and they seem to be doing pretty well. I actually contacted both of them to ask if it would help with making my own indie comic to have a YouTube channel or something like that. They said yeah, so I started with this, and that kind of brings us for the topic of today's video, which is kind of an indie comic pitch. Although these are two videos I did on BitChute already. This time I'm just going to roll them both into one and talk about this comic pitch, which is a science fiction bounty hunter game. To best describe would be, if you've ever played Prey, or have you ever heard of Prey 2? It was a canceled video game about a bounty hunter on a place called, I think, either Exodus or the Sphere. No, Exodus, I believe. And that was my inspiration for making this comic that I'm currently working on the script for. After college, I plan on saving up some money and looking for an artist to help work on it. I also wouldn't mind finding a co-author because I'm a bit like Lovecraft. I don't have a favorable view of my own work, so I wouldn't mind having some other people bring in their own ideas, as long as they're not political. I despise modern despise modern comics for bringing politics into comics. If you have to make politics, make them up for in that universe. Or is it a spoof, I guess? But the comic so far is just called Bounty Hunter Apocrypha or Apocrypha. I'm still working on the name. And it's about a bounty hunter who, for the purpose of this video, I will just be calling the Hunter. And to describe the Hunter would be kind of sad, actually. He used to be a soldier, a very idealistic, almost nationalistic, patriotic kind of soldier. He deeply believed in the values of his world and its people. And when they rebelled against the government at the time, the galactic government of his galaxy, for being corrupt and were just abusing the system and power, he believed in it. He had nothing else really to fight for. He had no family. He actually ran away from his family after basically they gave his older brother Vic to an angry mob. After this, he joined the military. He joined the Terran Protectors, and then later the Sentinels. Then his best friend was killed, and he was put in cryostasis. He woke up 200 years later, and that's about as much as I'm going to give on the backstory for him. He woke up 200 years later and became a bounty hunter. And the story kind of follows him. Well, one night he's actually doing some bounty hunter work, and then the next morning, after he's returned home to his safe house, he is contacted by a corporation to help find someone who's gone missing, and that leads him to being hired for another job, which presents him with a chance at revenge. Because the people who put him in cryostasis, who betrayed him, they all were found out by his friends back in that time period, and they were all put on cryostasis. He knew this, but he could never find them after he woke up. And this job offer that he's given after finding the missing person presents him the chance at closure and revenge. Also kind of puts him in a predicament because the world he's in, he can't leave because there's bounties on his head off that world. The world he lives on is kind of like I'll get back to that later. He just can't leave that world, or the bounty on his head will be active. But yeah, this presents him some chances to leave the world he's normally on. And to put it bluntly, the hunter is an anti-hero. He is not a nice guy. He is kind of an asshole. I'm taking some inspiration from Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Red Hood. Actually, of all the characters that have influenced the hunter, I would say Jango Fett kind of has more in common with the hunter. The only difference is the Jango Fett, after he lost the true Mandalorians, after they were massacred by the Jedi, Jango still held on to some of his beliefs and ideals. The hunter, he lost his. He lost a lot of what he believed in. He looks back on his past self with scorn and disgust and sees it as someone whose values were pipe dreams. And the story kind of has him in some way regaining some of his old self again. You see him looking back on the man he was and seeing some of the value in what he once believed in, and learns to see value in himself once more. But it's kind of a slow thing for him because he really has something of a self-loathing complex. He thinks that he deserves some of the messed up stuff that happened to him. He thinks he couldn't protect his best friend, so he kind of deserved all the misery he has. So it's kind of hard for him to forgive himself. The other people who did this to him, he will never forgive. What happens to them is they all die horribly. Either they get shot or they're going to be tortured or something like. Another thing is the influence is the Punisher. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yeah, he is an anti-hero. I do take inspiration from the Fets, but he is kind of similar to mainly the Red Hood and the Punisher in terms of what he is willing to do. He has no qualms with doing things that are not so heroic. Again, an anti-hero. He does have some heroic values still. In fact, they're the few values that survived the soul crushing event that happened before he was put in cryostasis. And that's all I can really say for the hunter. The setting is a place called, well, it mainly takes place in a place called Polis. To describe it would be like, in Prey 2, there was going to be a setting called Exodus. That's what the Polis, the city he lives in, is like. It's the size of a state, or multiple states. It's north of a bayou and swamp and southwest or east of a mountain area. It's similar to Omega from Mass Effect 2. Another thing I would compare it to would be Nassau from when it was a pirate republic. Before whatever happened to it, I don't remember. But he mainly makes his living here, and the city, the Polis, because that's where it gets its name, is run by gangs, crime syndicates, crime families, and a couple of corporations. Not a lot. Most corporations who make a mess of things or try to push certain agendas or values onto the Polis, they get evicted faster than shit through a goose. And yeah, most of these people hire the hunter from time to time. And he has really no qualm with working for them. Again, he lost a lot of his ideals. If you went back to when he was still a soldier, he would have probably killed most of the people he works for. He would have shot them and not thought twice about it. Because he had some morality still. Not a whole lot, because he had some questionable morals even as a soldier, but he was still a good person. And he would have thought these syndicates and crime families were scum. They would deserve whatever he gave them. He probably would have gone full Punisher on them, but now he's a different person, so he doesn't. But for the most part, it's mostly humans I'm imagining in it. I don't know if there will be aliens in it, because I'm not so good with making up names. I'm trying to. I really am. I swear to God. But that's about it, I guess. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm actually would like to hear some feedback on this. It might help me improve what I have so far. Because while I don't have a high opinion of what I've done, I do believe in what I'm doing. And I'm hoping if I do get a second writer to work with me, they can help improve it. I still will have creative control, but as long as they don't try anything stupid, that would be my main thing. The artist I really don't care about, as long as they're competent. I want to save up a lot of money. I'm going to pay them for every volume they make. And the main idea is like each volume is an arc. It covers a couple of issues, and that's my main plan. So let me know your thoughts on that. And, well, yeah, that's it. Have a nice day. And remember, the game was rigged from the start.